Welcome to the Real Estate Podcast.
This is where you will get smart tactics and strategies to accelerate your business.
And where we share top agent secrets and stories that will help all of us be better at our profession and serve our clients better. And we're your hosts, Todd Sumney
And Rich LaRue.
Let's get into the episode. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's episode of the Real Estate Podcast. I'm Todd Sumney.
And I'm Rich LaRue.
And we have a very special guest with us today from a unique company that goes by the name of Fello. We have Ryan Young with us today. And Ryan, thank you for joining.
I am so excited to be here. This is going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one. You know, this entire podcast is dedicated to help agents grow their business and grow their business by serving their customers better through a service mindset, right?
Right.
And a large part of that, we talk endlessly about sphere of influence marketing, building a database, utilizing your database, growing it, expanding it, or digging in and making the relationships really deep, right?
And today is, we're going to dig real deep today. I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today.
I am too. And what I think if we could start, Ryan, you know, we pulled up your homepage of your website. And if you could tell everyone real quick how to get to your homepage real quick.
Yeah. So are you talking Young Team or Fello?
Fello.
Fello. Okay. Sorry, guys. I have a real estate company as well. I'm always blurring the lines. So yeah, if you go to hifello.com, HIFELLO, that'll take you there.
Great. And what you'll see is an image of like a dashboard, and basically that dashboard is attached to an agent's website, or excuse me, database. It's attached to an agent's database, and and what it says in visual pictures to me is there is a lot of business in our database that we just need to tap into and leverage and create those relationships. Cultivate those relationships, and there's business right there already in our database.
Yeah, but we already know that, Todd. That's why we have databases, right?
That is true.
Yeah.
It is true, but there are some agents that don't, and they need help, and that's where I guess at this point, if we could swing it over to you, Ryan, would you agree with my description of you know, that image on your homepage image, and if you could start with just tell us about Fello.
Yeah.
And how it works, what it's about, how it came about.
Yeah. So, we kind of say like, bring us your dead database and we'll bring it back to life. And I have a large real estate team in Northeast Ohio. And we're very fortunate. We sell, 500 homes a year. We've always been listing based. We're 60% of our business is listings year over year. And I didn't realize how unique that is for our industry. We've as an industry became an industry that is like obsessed with buying buyer leads. And if you look, there's over 100 million buyer leads sold every year, yet there's only 5 million homes sold. And what I found was that a lot of teams in the industry or agents in the industry, they build these databases, or maybe they haven't even started to build a database yet, and they're not truly monetizing and getting the maximum or optimizing the potential revenue or gross commission out of it. Right. And so we basically built Fello for my team. I built it for myself, right? And I found that we had so many opportunities in our database that we were losing. And by the time we followed up with them, they already bought something else. And sometimes they bought a year ago or 6 months ago, or they listed a year ago or 6 months ago. And we didn't even realize, we had no visibility into it. And so we had this concept of like, if we could just create the perfect database companion, right? Something that energizes your database, that brings your database, your CRM back to life, that provides you visibility and data in your database. And I'll talk more about that. How can you start actually winning at a higher level? And one of the things that's really important to us is, and we don't really talk about it in the real estate industry, but is, this customer acquisition cost theory. And how much does it cost you from an investment of marketing dollars or sales dollars to actually acquire a customer, right? For you to actually get a closed deal from it. And hopefully you're making more money on the revenue that you're driving or the gross commission that you're driving than you are for the cost that it acquired the customer. And hopefully there's a multiple of 4x or 3x or whatever it is, right?
Right.
Well, what we started finding is if you can start driving commission out of your database of people that you've already acquired or that are sitting in there, and you don't have to spend more money on leads, new leads, right? All of a sudden you can start scaling and building a really profitable business. And that's what we're extremely passionate about. And we're working with, over 2,300 teams over the country, 17,000 agents. And it's just in a very short period of time, in less than 2 years, it is just Fello is just massively blown up on this concept of there is commission sitting in your database and how can we help you find it?
Perfect description. I think you even had some stats, and I think we saw some numbers, about that. The numbers are just surprising about how many people are ready to buy, how many people are going to buy. And one of the things I know that we're going to get into in a minute is, even that little accountability where your software is going to show you when someone else who is in your database actually engaged with someone else.
When they listed with someone
When they
else,
listed
it's
with
tough.
someone else, and that's tough to see, but that's what's going to make you better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think agents that are listening to this podcast, the audience is agents, they all want to be better at their business. They want to do everything you just described. What's their
Yeah.
first step?
Yep. Well, I would say first step is just sign up for Fello. That would make it easy. However, I'm going to take let's say you don't sign up for Fello. Let's say uh, you just, for whatever reason, you can do what Fello does manually. And I'm going to walk you through the steps. So even if you aren't a Fello user, you can still do what Fello does. It's just a little bit more laborious and it's not as automated. The first step is actually cleaning your database. Okay. If you don't have visibility in your database of who owns a home and who doesn't, you're already at a disadvantage. When databases sync into Fello, there's about 40 million contacts that have been synced into our platform in the past 2 years. We see about 20% of them are attached to an address. Okay. 20%. Yet the National Association of Realtors last year said 26% of buyers were first-time home buyers, meaning that 74% of buyers own a home, right?
Right.
Yet we in our databases have 80% of them not attached to an address. It's mind-blowing of this concept of you have homeowners in your database and you didn't even know they were there, right? So the first step is let's actually clean your database. Let's become very obsessed with database hygiene. And so I would recommend to everyone listening, you take your database, you identify the addresses that you currently have, and you make sure those are accurate to the actual homeowner that lives there. Then you identify the other, maybe it's 80%, 70%, 90%, whatever it is, and you start actually searching for their addresses. And you need to become obsessed with finding every single address and every single homeowner that is already in your database. Okay. It's simple. There's third-party software you can use. A lot of MLSs provide safety software where when you put in their number or name, you can find them and it shows you their address. But ultimately, you need to start building a database of homeowners. That is the number one key to starting to have a scalable listing business. And then I'll talk about next, but you look like you're about to ask a question.
Well, I was just going to say, with the goal, basically what I'm hearing is out of your database, 100% of the people in your database that are homeowners have an address in the database attached, and it's the correct home. And
Amen.
That's the goal, right?
You start to build that habit, that muscle, you are going to be in a really good position or place to actually start scaling your business. And you don't have to have, the young team, we have a database of 55,000 people. We built it over the past 15 years. We got a lot of agents on our team. We've made some investments in the years in new lead generation sources. You can have a database of 500 or 1,000 or 5,000 or whatever it is, but you have to become obsessed with that database of identifying who are the homeowners. Okay. So that is step one. Step two, we have now identified the homeowners. This is exciting, right? We've realized all of a sudden there's all these homeowners in our database. We didn't even know they were there. Now you have to start marketing to them or messaging them and creating some sort of consistent message that creates engagement. All right. What I have found is, and doing this at pretty high scale and working with the top teams all over the country, the most universal message that is responded to really well by the homeowner is centered around the home value. Okay. The home value is a lower call to action, meaning if you get someone that says, yes, I'd like my home value, that doesn't mean that they want to list their house tomorrow, but the home value is relevant. That message is relevant to every single homeowner. And so if I were to ask you, guys, are you curious what your home's worth? The market is changing really quickly. Like, I would love to get you an update on your home's value. I'd love to show you what your home is worth. If you make improvements, let me know so I can show you how much your home reflects in the change of that value from those improvements. That is something that gets responded to really well, right? It's why Zillow and the Zestimate became so popular. So if you can start creating what I would say is consistent messaging to the homeowners, number one pillar would be centered around the home value. The second pillar would be centered around something of value, meaning not for you guys, but for me out here in Northeast Ohio in Cleveland, we're getting a bunch of snow right now. Here are the things to prepare your house before the big snowstorm comes, right? For you guys, maybe it's we're getting really big heat. Here's some things to do before we get this heat wave, or, it's really dry. Here's some ways to preserve landscaping or whatever it may be. But if you can remember, these are homeowners. And if you can ultimately communicate with them, not only their home value, but items of value that ultimately protect their asset, the value that they have in it, you're going to get really good engagement. All right. So the key is now we're identifying all the homeowners and now we're creating consistent engagement with those homeowners. Now let's talk about what do we say when we have a conversation with them. And what I have found is that whenever you talk to a homeowner, first you focus on service. You always have to come from like a servant mindset, because if you call a homeowner that's engaging with your messaging, that's saying, yeah, I'd love to know my home value, they're opening up your emails about, different home improvements, et cetera, things that protect their asset. If you try to sell them something, you're going to push them away from all that marketing messaging that you've done a really good job getting them engaged with. Okay. So the key is, the last component is, when I reach out to homeowners in our database, and the young team, we did a little study last year. We did what was called the 30-day listing challenge. And I've been out of production for 4 years. And I said to the entire Fello community, and really to the entire world, I'm going to set 30 listing appointments in 30 days purely by calling my database. And I documented it all. It's all on my social media, on my Instagram account. And I show the live calls. And I took this same exact approach for every single 30 listing appointments that I set. I was successful doing so. I always started that phone call focusing on service. And, it'd be something like, Todd, hey, I just wanted to check in and make sure, I've been sending you some updates about your home's value. I'm just so curious. What are your thoughts about what I've been sending over to you? I'm just curious about the information I sent over about the landscape or about the winter storm coming or whatever it may be. I just wanted to make sure those were helpful for you, right? And I always come first from service. If I call you and say, hey, I see you've been opening my communication about your home value. Are you ready to list your house? It's literally going to push you away. You're going to be like, oh my God, every time I open an email from this guy, he's calling me. So you have to come first from, I'm coming from contribution. And then I move it to something along the lines of, and by any chance you're thinking about buying, selling, or maybe I can help you from a refi standpoint in the near future. And 99% of people say, no, thank you. Now they've already let their guard down because I've come from contribution first, right? Here's where 99% of agents fail with this conversation is the majority of 99% of these homeowners are going to say, no, I'm just curious. I was just curious about the messaging. I was just curious about my home value. 99% of agents get off the phone. They say, well, if I can ever help, let me know, right? Like, I'm here for you. Now, remember, Fello shows you that every time an address in your database lists their home with or without you, a lot of times those people end up listing without you. They told you they were just curious, right? It's a smokescreen. It's an objection, but ultimately then they end up listing with someone else 60 days later. So what I always explain to people is you got to ask this third question. And I found myself asking this question on all 30 of the listing appointments I set. I totally understand that you're just curious, Todd, but I'm just curious. Look, if there was an opportunity to sell your home, even if it was off market and it made financial sense, would you be open to looking at an offer? All right. And it's such a non-committal question. Would you be open to looking at an offer if there was an opportunity that made financial sense? Would you be open to looking at an offer? What I found was a lot of people are going to say yes to that. You're going to see 50% of the people are going to say like, yeah, I'd be open to looking at it. Sure. Right. Yeah, maybe it depends on what the number is. Anything's for sale if it's the price is right. Well, this is where great salespeople show a lot of restraint, and we don't say, "Great, when can I come over?" Because then that would freak them out. We just ask them this like hypothetical, you know, fairy tale kind of, if there was an opportunity. This is where you have to go really deep into discovery and say, "Wow, that's so exciting. Where would you go if you accepted the offer? Wow, when would you want to be there? Why is that important to you?" Right? Get them into this dream state. Let them talk about what their future looks like to you. And what I found was when you actually have this process of finding homeowners, you engage with them through automation and providing them things of value, and then you start having conversations with them and asking them a great question like, if there was an opportunity and it made financial sense, would you be open to looking at an offer? A lot of times they will start to open up to you. And you're going to hear some people say things like, well, Ryan, my kid's a junior in high school. I can't sell until they graduate. Well, great. There's a seller in 2 years from now. I'm still going to be selling real estate in 2 years. All I got to do is follow up for you for the next 2 years, but I know that I have a seller warmed up, right? Well, Ryan, I retire in 4 years. I really don't want to leave until I retire, but then we'd be open to, downsizing. Great. There's a seller in 4 years. What seller lead generation is really focused on, and it's what we've really excelled at. Remember, the young team is 60%. We do 350 plus listings year over year with 15 agents. I have Fello, which is really focused on helping agents drive listings out of their database. The seller lead gen game, the listing prospecting game, is all about the mindset that every single homeowner that I talk to, it's not if they are going to sell, it's when they are going to sell. If I go in with the mindset and say, "Are you planning on selling today?" "No, you're not." Click, I hang up, and then I never call you again. You're playing the wrong game, because seller pipeline takes a lot longer to cultivate. It takes a lot longer. They go through a much bigger decision-making process. Buyers inquire online. They say, "Can I please see this house tomorrow or today," or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden we go and show them the house. I mean, it's instant gratification, right? Sellers, they want to do due diligence. They need to get their house ready. They probably want to interview multiple agents. They need to identify where they're going. They need to get their finances in order. Like, it's a much larger transaction. And so us as real estate professionals need to start building a very big pipeline of sellers and homeowners that we're having communication with. And we should be able to go into our database of all of the homeowners that we have and say, Rich is 2 years out, and Todd is 6 months out, and Joey is 3 years out, and Susie, if she can find the right house, she would sell tomorrow. But now we got to find the right house. Well, what is she looking for? Who else in my database can I go to in my database, because I have a lot of homeowners, and find an opportunity for Susie, maybe off market, and then find out where they're going. And you see where this game goes. And it's really powerful when you start to master it.
Right.
That might have made no sense, by the way. I just rambled on for like 10 minutes.
No, it makes total sense. And
Rich has a page of notes.
Yeah, I
Good.
do. I've got a page of notes, and it's been really hard for me to stay silent. But there's a process for this, and we talked about this when we talked to you before. And there's a granular process for knowing exactly who in your database to market to. So can we talk about that process and knowing who to market to and why to market to them? Because you're ranking these prospects in your database.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
There is. So, and this is where all of a sudden, so you can do everything that I just said really without Fello, right? Like, you can find homeowners manually and email them and text them and then call them, right? That's not a problem. What Fello really,
But that's shotgunning the business, and we've done that for decades. Any agent who has been in the business, for more than a few years, we have done it that way. We've just gone
100%.
out there and we've just blasted the market with postcards and we've dialed for dollars. Let's say
Yep.
that instead of doing that, instead of shotgunning the business, we want to become a sniper. And if
Yep.
I'm offending anybody because I'm referencing that, sorry, whatever.
Yeah. So I
I
think
want to be a sniper.
You want to be
yeah,
focused, right?
you want to be
Okay, fine.
focused. There we go.
Focused.
You want to
I
be a
want to be a
focused
focused
sniper.
sniper.
There you go. So one of the things that really put Fellow on the map, and we kind of introduced this to the real estate industry, is as soon as you plug your database in, the first thing we do is we find the homeowners for you that you don't currently know, right? So now all of a sudden you're getting a value add of like, wow, I didn't realize these were homeowners in my database. But then what we do is we actually take the addresses and we run MLS data, public record data, and mortgage data against them. And the reason why this is really important is I kind of say it's like turning the lights on in your database. You have a name and a number, a phone number, and an email to a contact in your database, but that's all it is to you, right? But all of a sudden, I plug Rich into my database, and I know that he lives at 123 Main Street, and I know he's lived there for 16 years, and I know that he doesn't have a mortgage on his property, or he has a 3% mortgage, or he has a 7% mortgage, or he just refied 3 years ago, or he has a significant amount of equity. Right. So now all of a sudden I can start to identify messaging that is really relevant to Rich. And I know that Todd moved into his house 2 years ago. And it looks like he's actually underwater based on the mortgage that he currently has, or he has private mortgage insurance, or he took out a home equity line of credit. So now I can customize messaging to Todd. And so what Fellow got really good and where it is very surgical is, and it's not this shotgun spray and pray kind of approach, one size fits all. It's taking all of these rich data points and identifying messaging that is really relevant to Rich where he is at in his current life cycle of being at his house. Then what we do is, so now we have an idea of Rich has been in his house. His house is doubled in value. He doesn't have a mortgage. He just paid it off. He has all this equity. Okay, that would probably be a good indicator that he would be open to having a conversation. But then on top of it, we are looking at the behavior, the engagement. So, Rich, if you're opening your emails every time I'm sending them to you and you're clicking on that home value dashboard and you're clicking on educational information on that dashboard, that's probably going to say that you're getting ready to sell. You're getting warmer, right? You're looking for this. If you didn't care about your home value and if you weren't clicking on all this educational content, then it's probably unlikely that you're thinking about it, right?
Right. At
So
least it's on my radar screen, right?
at least it's on your radar. So what we do is we take all the data and then we stack the engagement on top of it, and we identify a score, a likelihood that Rich is actually going to sell his home, right? And then what we do is obviously the higher likelihood, the higher score you have, we start to increase frequency of messaging and we start to make higher intent messaging with like higher intent call to actions to try to work you down the funnel, while simultaneously the agent is hopefully putting forth some sort of sales effort, getting you on the phone, having those type of conversations, that script that I just kind of walked you through.
Right.
The best part about it is that because we have the MLS data, so we can show you everyone in your database that transacted after, right? Whether they listed with or without you and when they sold. What's so interesting is at first, I think we had some agents that kind of said, how accurate is this? Well, I don't know. Like, it just seems like you giving me a number or ranking them seems like a waste of time for me to call them. But they started to see those people were actually listing their homes 30 days, 60 days later because we give them those reports.
Right.
That all of a sudden had the buy-in. Once you start to see people that are engaging in your messaging that have a high likelihood to sell and then end up listing, 30, 60, 90 days later, that's where you have to take some extreme ownership and say, I dropped the ball. I need to be better at having a
You're saying
conversation.
they listed with someone else.
Yeah.
They listed with someone else,
Oh,
right?
ouch.
Because we give you that information as well, just saying, hey, here's someone that was actively engaging in the messaging. Here's someone that we thought was likely to sell based on their engagement in the data points. They just listed with your competitor. And once again, I always joke with Fellow. I say, with our clients at Fellow and new prospects, I say Fellow is not a good fit if you want us to call your prospects for you and go on the listing appointments for you, right? Like, we're not going to do that. What we can do is we can create engagement. We can give you data. We can give you awareness of who's transacting. We're going to show you who you should be having conversations with. but ultimately we're not going to call them for you. We're not going to go on the appointment. So if you're not comfortable making a call and you're not comfortable going on the appointment, you probably shouldn't be in the industry. But
Right.
you know, let us help you get 80% there. All you got to do is pick up the phone and get that appointment and get the agreement signed.
Right. Well, what I heard you just describe, and we use this phrase a lot here at HomeSmart because it kind of fits a little bit with our name, but we talk about working smarter, not harder.
100%.
And so what I hear you describing is it's after a while, those that use Fellow, they begin to trust in the probability score that is given to each contact. And it's not that they only focus on those that have the higher propensity, to buy, but that's where their priority is. And then they also still maintain all the others because the other might be 4 years away, but I'm going to be in the business 4 years from now. So I'm still going to engage with them and still keep them as part of the process. But my priority are those ones that are, the system is telling me soon, and keep certain. Now is the time to serve them. Now's the time to really help. Now's the time to dig in. Am I hearing everything correctly?
Work smarter, not harder. Work smarter and harder, and you will have a tremendous amount of success
I
in
like
real
that even
estate.
better. Work
You
smarter
know,
and harder. I like that. Yeah.
it's one of those
Right.
things that it's like,
Yeah.
I actually, it's funny. I posted on social media today. There was like a Facebook memory of me from 9 years ago, and I was wearing this dapper suit, a three-piece suit. At the time I was 32 years old, and it was something like late night at the office making, lead generating, right? And that's
Right.
what the caption was. And it's crazy. I mean, I used to do more of the shotgun approach before Fellow. It was expireds, it was FISBOs. It was, I was 32 years old. I was
Sure.
in the business for a couple years. The market wasn't in the best place. And it's like, I wish I would have had a tool that allowed me to work smarter. I literally would just go through the list and I would call one person after the next person after the next person. And it's like, ultimately it helped me build the skill set that I have today. But to have the visibility and the data of who's likely to transact and then just have a conversation with them. And the best part about it is because Fellow is all white label to your brand, it's completely customizable. So the consumer has no idea who Fellow is, right? It feels very proprietary to each and every agent. Every agent's is unique.
Yep.
When they get that messaging and they see it over and over again and it's in your brand, they actually like having phone calls with you. It's not a cold call, it's a warm phone call. They've
Yeah.
been opening the communication from you
Right.
for however many months or years. They're excited. You've been the one that's been providing them something of value. And they're excited to have conversations with you.
Right.
I just want to go back and underscore what I heard you say and make sure that I heard you say this. So we're snipers and we're looking at we're drawing in on people who are ready to go. They're likely to sell. Score is higher, but then the messaging where they are in their life is different, and so we're customizing that message to them. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So Todd isn't getting the same exact message just because he's likely to sell that I'm getting.
If
Because we're
Todd,
at
if
different
Todd has
places in life.
different places in life, and not necessarily,
Absolutely brilliant.
not in not only different places in life, but different places potentially in an equitable position uh in different types of how long you've been in your home and maybe the appreciation you've seen in your home. So much of the messaging, and we leverage a lot of intelligence. It's like mind blowing. I remember I'm a real estate guy, so it's like to be the CEO of a software company and like see some of the things. I just tell them all the pain points that I have as a real estate user, and then they build. I've got an amazing team. We have 110 team members on Fellow, and it's like the brilliance that comes out of there and how they create variations, and it gets smarter and smarter based on engagement. We have seen just think about this. Think about every time you go to Amazon. Think about every time you go to Netflix. It's always making recommendations for you based off of things that you've purchased, things that you've watched, right?
Right.
Yet we as a real estate industry are still sending set the clock back emails saying like, don't forget to set the clock back, like happy spring forward day or whatever, fall daylight savings. It's like that is not relevant to the consumer. It's nothing of value. It ends up becoming noise. And what people do is they unsubscribe from noise. So if I know that Rich has been in his home 17 years or 20 years or 10 years, and Todd's been in 5, and Todd just paid off his mortgage because I have that data, if I can send Todd an email saying, congrats on paying off your mortgage, that is really exciting. And then essentially there could be an offer behind it of what are you planning on doing now that you own this asset free and clear, right? Like you just think about how granular the messaging can get based off of the data points. Our mission is to empower businesses of all sizes with data-driven intelligence. The more data I have, the more intelligent the marketing can be.
Okay, so I am a listener to this podcast, and
Yep.
I'm thinking, this sounds great. How automated is this? Is it automated like the Amazon example that you just gave? Or as an agent, am I getting this information and I am personally the automation and I have to change that message and send it out?
It's all automated. It's
Get out
I
of
kind
here,
of
really?
yeah, so I kind of say, we build complex technology to create like really seamless, simple consumer customer experiences, where the intelligence component comes in, and it's just, I mean, what it'll look like in 6 months from now is even to another level. What the what the intelligence component of this looks like is it picks up these data points and then moves people from messaging based off of their engagement. So, Rich, if you're clicking actively on frequently on email communication, then we're going to increase the frequency of the communication that you're getting, right? Todd, if you're very rarely looking at email communication, we're going to throttle back and maybe change some of the approaches that we're taking to get to you, right? Maybe we try direct mail. Maybe we try another channel in order to create engagement, right? So it's like the system gets smarter and smarter. When you think of the world we're moving into with artificial intelligence and machine learning, where you just keep feeding it information and it keeps getting smarter and smarter off of that information, that is where this is going, is to the point where it's like you plug in your database, we understand what your goals are, right? And you let the system do its thing. It's actually like, even me saying it out loud, it sounds a little like trippy. It's like a little like we're getting really smart and intelligence is taking over, but it's like I have the visibility to like the back end of like how it goes through this learning process of what people in your database are opening and how we're top grading out the stuff that they're not opening and creating hundreds of variations of the emails of the stuff that they are opening and then top grading out of those variations the ones that are not. And not to get too geeky on it, but it is so cool and it is so powerful to see ultimately the results and the engagement it creates.
Right.
So as an agent, I've tried a whole bunch of systems out there and I've screwed just about every system up. You're telling me that this system will work in spite of me?
It should do a pretty good job keeping you away from self-inflicted wounds. There is
Wow.
it is one of those things that it's like it's hard to screw it up because the guardrails. I'll just give you an example. You guys are in kind of the mecca of cash offer iBuyers, right? Like
Yes, we are.
you
Yeah.
see quite a few, especially 5 years ago, 3 years ago. I know it's kind of toned down a little bit, but it's still relevant. Um, we have a lot of clients that offer cash offers in the Fello community, and they use it as a mechanism to either syndicate that or aggregate that cash offer to a third party partner, or maybe they want to buy it themselves, or maybe they have a group of investors, et cetera. So we have third party partners, what we call buy boxes, meaning that what is their criteria that they will actually offer on a property. And let's just say they're willing to offer up to $1 million for a house that's built after 1970, and the house has to be between 1,000 and 4,000 square feet. Well, Fellow actually can take that buy box and we actually put it in our messaging, and we will display a cash offer if the house actually qualifies for what is in their buy box. Now, if Rich, your house is 4,001 square feet, you're never going to see a message for getting a cash offer on your home. And Todd, if your house is 3,200 square feet and built after 1970 and is worth $700,000, you're going to see a cash offer displayed, right? So when I say it's like kind of, I joke idiot proof, like it is really, it's hard to all of a sudden, we don't want you sending cash offer messages to people that live in $10 million houses. No one can fulfill that message. It makes you look really bad. That's where you start getting in trouble. Someone clicks on that and they call you and you're like, well, I can't get you a cash offer. Your house is worth $10 million. No one's going to offer on that. And they're going to say, well, why did you send me the message? Right.
Right. And in all fairness, we are based here in the Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona area, but our listeners are all over the nation.
Yep.
We are nationwide. So.
Yep. And cash offer is a great vehicle if you have partners, or what we found is the cash offer message is a great vehicle for driving leads down the funnel to see a little bit higher intent. One of the things that I always recommend is if you're in an area, like I'm in Northeast Ohio and greater Cleveland, and we don't have a lot of cash buyers, but I'm confident that if you call people in your database, and one of the cool things about Fello is it can show you people that own multiple homes, and normally people that own multiple homes own investment real estate. If I call someone that owns investment real estate and say, hey, I see you have 4 properties right in our database, because Fello finds that for me. If I could get you a great deal on another property, would you be open to expanding your portfolio? And they say, well, sure. I mean, if you can get me a great deal, well, great. I'm going to do a cash offer program. And if someone wants a cash offer on their home, would you be willing to offer on it? Right. And you get 5, 10 of these investors that invest in real estate or want to invest in real estate, and there's your cash offer program. You don't necessarily need to be in Phoenix or in some of the larger metropolitan areas where there are iBuyers.
See, that's working smarter and harder.
Yeah.
That's smarter and harder.
And harder. I like that because you're putting in the effort too, and you're also
Yep.
not. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you said the word a moment ago. Back to where we all started. Database.
Yeah.
And sometimes agents. They don't really know what to do. They don't know if they have a database. They don't know where to start, especially newer agents. One of the things I love about all our conversations we've had with you so far is you are leading a software company to solve the problems that you as a team leader and real estate professional have run into. And you're constantly adjusting as you continue to run into roadblocks, and then let's overcome that one. So do you have a story here? We're nearing our end of our time here. Do you have a
Sure.
story just about an agent how they got started with you?
Yeah.
And where it took them, and so that it can inspire someone to not just listen today, but actually take some action?
Yeah, so I remember we were talking about actually an agent on my team a couple weeks ago, and I can't tell you the importance of the mindset when it comes to building a database. And really, you can build as big of a database as you want, as long as you have the mindset to do so. And the young team, we had an agent that joined our team, and first thing we say to them is, upload your contacts into our CRM, and we're going to start doing a marketing campaign on your behalf to welcome you to the team in front of your entire database on our dime. Do a little direct mail, a little email, just a nice way to let them know that you're in the business and you're a part of our organization. And he's like, that's amazing, I'll do that. And we went back to him after a couple of days, and it's like, are you done? And he's like, I'm done. And it's like, well, where's the rest of your database? He's like, well, that's all I got. And it's like, dude, there's 100 names. There's 100 contacts in here. Like, where's the rest of them? He's like, that's all I know. That's all I got. And I'm like, you got married last year, right? And he's like, yeah, I got married. And I'm like, I saw it looked like a great wedding. It was like, it was amazing, And I'm like, how many people did you have at the wedding? And he's like, about 250. And I'm like, dude, you had 250 people at your wedding and you only put 100 people in your CRM. And he's like, well, but some of them are like my cousins and aunts and uncles. It's like, put them in your CRM. Well, a couple of them came from out of town. Put them in your CRM. Like you never know what that could lead to. An external referral. Maybe they move back, right? Like you need the mindset of, I am committed to building my CRM, or you got to take 2 paths. You either have to say, I'm willing to build my database, or I'm going to buy my database. Which one are you going to take? Are you going to buy a bunch of leads, or are you going to build your database organically, right? And I have found that, you can build your database by doing a bunch of open houses and networking events. And I always tell people, go open up your phone and see how many contacts. I have an iPhone. You can scroll all the way to the bottom, and the last thing it tells you is the number of contacts. I got like 4,500 contacts in there. I've got 5,000 friends on Facebook. I've got 1,500 friends on Instagram, our followers. You're telling me that all you can find is 100 people to put in your database? So he got it. He laughed. He was like, I get it now. I understand what we're trying to do here. And, this was 3 years ago or so. He's going to have his best year ever. He's making more money than he's ever made in other careers that he came from. And he's doing it by very intentionally, every networking event, every open house, he's going there with the intention of, I am here to build my database. I'm here to meet people. I'm here to network, and I'm here to ultimately capture their information and then start providing them messaging of value, relevance, right? Find their home, and then ultimately long-term convert them into a potential opportunity. And it is such a game changer when you start looking at the business through that mindset. It's a game changer because you'll realize there is no limit to how big of a business you can build, and there is no limit to the profitability or the margins that we have within this business when you run it organically. And I know a lot of friends that have really big businesses, and they've bought their business by spending a lot of money on leads, and there's nothing wrong with that, but their margins are significantly thinner, and they have a lot less of what I would say is a scalable business. If you remove that lead source from them, it ends up becoming very, very dangerous. It's a slippery slope when you build a business based on a third-party lead source.
Right.
I get all fired up on this stuff. Sorry, guys. This is just getting me. I'm ready to go charge the storm.
No, I love it. And you have stickiness when you're doing it the way you're talking about doing it.
Yeah.
You're creating engagement and just trust and building trust and value. So
Yeah.
I love everything I've heard. Yeah.
And you're building a long-term strategy that is scalable, that is sustainable. It doesn't matter what type of market. I speak on really big stages. I'm very fortunate and blessed to do so. And one of the things I always talk about is, do you rent or do you own your business? And, when people are like, well, what do you mean? It's like, if you're waiting for rates to come down, and if you're waiting for the outcome of the election, and if you're waiting for all these variables that you can't control, then you probably rent your business. Versus if you own your business, are you in control? Do you have predictability, right? Do you own your business, or does your business own you? And I just can't tell you how powerful it is when you build this muscle, these habits, right? Of what ultimately the opportunities that are out there for you.
Right. Well, speaking of opportunities, I know that through our relationship, there's a special offer and a special opportunity for HomeSmart agents now. All of you HomeSmart agents in the audience, there's a special offer if you would like to engage with Fello and check them out. Ryan, can you tell them a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're going to make sure we take extra special care of our clients that ultimately come in through, call it the Todd and Rich special. So we're going to have a really nice discount on not only the monthly recurring expense, the subscription expense, but also we're going to give you a really nice discount on the onboarding as well. It's a completely white gloved onboarding. So it's a great way to get in with somewhat of what I would say is a low initial investment, and then ultimately a nice way to make it palatable from your monthly subscription costs, so that you can see big return on it.
Right. And remember, audience, we often talk about building your marketing plan, building your budget, and running your business like a CEO, a CFO, a CMO, and out of your budget, allocating money to things that will grow your business, and building a budget and utilizing it, and then tracking the ROI against it. Fello is one of those that I would really ask you to explore and engage. And I love everything I've heard today, and please share your feedback with us as well. Rich, any final thoughts here as we get here toward the end?
No, well, actually, yes. I have one final question for you, and it's probably something that you could spend a half an hour on, but I'm going to ask you to spend 90 seconds on it.
I'll be brief. I'm a talker.
If you were an agent, or if you were coaching an agent who is new to the area and has no friends, no database, knows nobody in that town, what would you tell her how to get started as an agent in that area? Where would you begin?
Yeah. So I'm gonna give you two paths. The first path is join a team. Okay. If you want to expedite it, that is an easy way. Join a team, start getting some reps, building your database, learning the market, etc. Let's say you want to do this on your own, and I totally respect it. I did it on my own and I built my own team. You want to build your own team versus joining. You have to join every single networking opportunity possible. You have to learn the market obsessively, right? So driving around, going into every single home, touring, previewing home, every single open house, every single broker's tour. And you ultimately have to identify some sort of outbound strategy, which is more of, I would say, less of a sniper, more of a shotgun approach, right? You have to develop some sort of outbound strategy to get things going. And outbound strategy could be centered around expireds, for sale by owners, circle prospecting. But like, if you do those three things simultaneously, very quickly, within a year or two, you won't have to do the outbound part anymore, because you'll start to drive so much business from the networking and the market knowledge that you have and the conversations that you already have. That's how you will win.
Great. There we go.
Yeah.
Covers just about everybody in the business today.
That does.
Yeah.
That does. Well,
And real quick, Todd, I just heard from HQ. They just gave me actually I didn't realize, but we're actually going to do something bigger than what I thought we did. We're going to actually give 25% off that subscription. And so ultimately you come in, you got to say, though, we have some QR codes and some links to go through. But if you don't go in through those links, make sure you mention Rich and Todd or your HomeSmart affiliate. We want to make sure we take care of you, but 25% off of that subscription cost.
Wow.
Great.
Awesome. Love that. And you know what I love about our talk today is that there were all along the way, it was actionable strategies, tactics, and value. Whether you're using Fello or not, it just seems like Fello might make it a little bit faster. So Ryan, thank you for joining us here today. We really
Great
appreciate
strategies.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Good stuff, Ryan.
This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We'll have you back on a future episode too and dig into all the new stuff that you're doing as well. So
I can't wait.
Thank you for joining us. And for
Thanks
all
for
of
having
you
me.
listening, we'll see you back around on future episodes. Thank you for joining us today on the Real Estate Podcast.
We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Like what you're hearing on The Real Estate? Tell your friends about us. Tell them to check out all of our episodes on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. And don't forget to send any topics you want us to tackle to therealestate@homesmart.com.